Welcome to Beyond the Barrier, the podcast where we explore the wild world of public safety, fire, law enforcement, EMS, and security with your hosts, Jake, Corwin, and Joe. We're here to break down the barriers and go beyond the usual topics, from heroic tales of first responders to the latest tech in the security industry. We've got you covered, so buckle up and get ready for a ride that's sure to be as exciting as a high-speed chase, but with less sirens. Let's jump beyond the barrier and see what's on the other side.
Welcome back to Beyond the Barrier, everyone. Some housekeeping to do real quick. If you have something you'd like us to talk about, you can email us at beyondthebarrier1@gmail.com or reach us on social media, Facebook, Twitter. We'll have a website soon when Corwin feels like doing website stuff.
Well, we're working on it.
If you'd like to submit some artwork to us, all of our shows get their own post with its own artwork, and maybe we will use your artwork. You can send that to us at beyondthebarrier1@gmail.com. And if you would like to consider supporting us, you can check us out over at patreon.com/beyondthebarrier. You get some perks there. You get a sticker. You get shows a day early. You get Discord access. So please consider checking us out there.
Before we get started, I want to go back to a topic we talked about on another episode. It's when we talked about firefighters using red and blue lights in in Iowa you can only use blue lights, can't have a siren, that type of shit. Anyhow, so real quick, the reason I wanted to bring this up is because I forgot to mention, in the state of Iowa, tow trucks can run red and blue lights and a siren, and funeral escorts for dead people that no longer need emergency help that are dead can use red and white lights and a siren. That is the reasoning. That is some of my biggest reasoning on why I think that aspect of the law needs changed. Dead people can have red and white lights and siren, but a little kid reacting to a bee sting, sorry bud, gotta use a blue light only. That's some of my biggest reasoning behind that. A tow truck driver going to pull somebody out of a ditch can run red and blue light, and a funeral can use red and white lights. That makes no sense whatsoever. So that's just my little spew I wanted to add in there, because I'm pretty sure I forgot to do it in the episode that we talked about it on.
Yeah, so if you'd like to know what Joe's talking about or you didn't catch that episode, go ahead and check out our previous episode. It was, I don't remember the title of it. It's the last one.
In rural areas.
Was that the last episode? Yes, that was the last episode. Yep. But anyway, so what are we? This episode is going to be over a little different from what we've been doing. We talked about, I believe, in our very first episode that every once in a while we would have an episode on somebody we thought has impacted the fire, EMS, police world, and that's what this episode's going to be on. This episode's going to be on a gentleman by the name of Eli Beer. He is from Israel, and I guess we'll just get into it. Why are we talking about Eli Beer? What did he do? Well, he's the president and founder of United Hatzalah, and if I'm saying it wrong, I apologize. Hatzalah means rescue in Hebrew. So what is United Hatzalah? So it is the biggest volunteer EMS agency in the world. And they came to be, I believe, in the 90s, early 90s, something like that. Or shortly after that, maybe, I believe it was like late 90s, early 2000s. But regardless, like I said, they're the biggest volunteer EMS agency in the world. and they have some pretty unique things that they have some things that make them pretty unique. We'll get into what those things are, but first let's give a little history on Eli. So he was born in the 70s, in the late 70s. He lives in Israel, obviously. He was, I believe, on his way home from school or on his way to school or something like that. And he witnessed the bombing of a passenger bus.
And mind you, this was like he was 5 or 6 when that happened.
Not very old at all. So he witnessed the bombing of this bus in the late 70s. There wasn't much help for those people in the sense of emergency response, and that really that impacted him. And
looks like to me he was 6 years old when this happened. It happened in 1980.
It actually happened in 1978. But yeah, so he witnessed the bombing of this bus, and it really impacted him, and he wanted to change the way his country did EMS. So at the age of 14 in 1988, Eli became an EMT, and that is, for me at least, that is fucking crazy to hear that a 14-year-old became an EMT.
That's astonishing. You can't even start the program in the United States until you're 17, and you have to be 18 by the time you complete the program if you want to be state certified. There are people that complete the program before they're 18, which you can do, but you cannot get your state certification. And that's probably, that's speaking for Iowa. I would assume that's the same everywhere. And I also assume that that's the same for the National Registry. You can't get your National Registry certification until you're 18.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just going to say I don't know how true that is, because Israel does follow the National Registry. So, and he did become an EMT.
They may follow their curriculum and stuff, but I'd almost bet money on it. You're not getting a National Registry certificate. You can get a certification that you complete, or you completed the course or whatever, and then when you turn 18, just apply for your license. But I'll almost guarantee you're not getting a license to practice before you're 18 in the United States.
Yeah, in the United States. But again, in Israel, so before the short show started, we were actually just talking, and we were trying to, and we'll get into it more, figure out the differences between Israel and the United States EMS. And there's really not a whole lot of information on it that we were able to find. Now, I'm not saying we put extensive hours of research into it or anything, but we are able to tell that Israel is leaps and bounds ahead of the United States. The United States is EMS. But anyway, so let's get back to Eli. So yeah, he became an EMT at the age of 14 in 1988. Again, just astonishing, mind-blowing.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is how you know this is raw, unfiltered, and unscripted.
Yeah, we're not talking out of our asses or anything. Like we have researched this, and whatever. It's just a matter of putting it all together. And I will say it's kind of hard to research this, because, like I said, they don't have a lot of information on their EMS system and how it's different from the United States. Let's get into, so what is United Hatzalah? Well, we already know that it's a volunteer EMS agency. It's the largest in the world.
It was also founded in 2006.
There we go.
Just clarifying that.
So let's talk about some of their uniqueness. What makes them so much different from other EMS agencies? Well, one, they're completely volunteer, like I've said a bunch of fucking times now. The other one, and the biggest one, is they're not like a traditional ambulance service. Yes, they do have ambulances, but that's not what they're known for. They are known for this nifty little thing called an ambucycle. And what's an ambucycle? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It is essentially a moped with EMS equipment. And why is that important? So Israel, they have a lot of urban areas that are hard to navigate with a full size ambulance. So these ambucycles can navigate the streets a lot easier. Currently, as of right now, of when I wrote this show, they have 1,050 ambucycles in service in Israel, with over 6,000 volunteers. So I guess I should point out that they do more than just the little mopeds. They also have bicycles, e-bikes, and then they also have actual motorcycles that are, again, they just carry EMS equipment. And then they also have ambulances as well. And at the time, when I wrote this show, the last number I saw was they run about 50 ambulances. The other thing that is unique to them is their services are completely free.
There's also 2 other means of transportation that I found super interesting. Ambu-boats. An ambulance on a boat. And I think it's their largest lake. That is awesome and innovative. I love it. I'm also terrified. Could you imagine trying to do any EMS on a boat?
Probably not the easiest thing to do. And again, we do have that in the United States. It's not specifically EMS boat, but we do have first responders on the water in the United States.
I'll be the first to admit I'm not an expert on EMS anywhere. So a lot of this stuff that I'm seeing for the first time is just amazing to me. Both specific to EMS, ATVs, e-bikes, seeing that they had ambucycles, that just blew me away. But I think the biggest part that blew me away, not only is it free, but the response time is just fantastic. Jake,
Yeah.
what's the response time again?
So that's another thing that makes them very unique. So their average response time across Israel is 3 minutes. The motto that they go by is 90 seconds or less. So from the time they receive the call to the time they are next to the patient, they want that to be 90 seconds, which is just fucking absolutely insane for me to comprehend. It's just insane. That's an insane response time.
The United States has a lot to learn from that. If you listen to a previous episode, we were talking rural EMS. Our response times can be 15, 20 minutes plus. And in the metropolitan area, I can't speak from experience or firsthand knowledge, but I'd say you're looking at 5 to 10 minutes. I remember when I took my EMT, the average nationwide response time was like 8 minutes, I think, maybe 7 or 8 minutes. So 90 seconds, man, that's valuable life-saving time right there.
Yeah, it's just truly insane. Even the 3 minutes, because that's what their response time averages out to, is usually about 3 minutes before they get a responder to a patient. And
Right.
that's still insane to think of.
And real quick, I just want to put this into perspective for people. So, for instance, if you have a witnessed cardiac arrest, which means somebody saw this person go into cardiac arrest, they saw that person, drop to the floor or whatever it may be, that golden window is within that, for CPR or defibrillation, whatever it may be, that needs to happen within that needs to have begun within 1 to roughly 5 minutes. So 90 seconds or 3 minutes, that person, I mean, they're out of hospital, their out of hospital rate of gaining ROSC or something like that on a patient has got to be astronomically higher than what it is in the United States. You know, because like I say, in the United States, it's 7 to 8 minutes nationally. You know, and by that time, once EMS has arrived and somebody's been in cardiac arrest that long, pulseless or without oxygen or whatever it may be, you know, they're experiencing brain damage by that point. But 90 seconds to 3 minutes, that's life changing. That's altering. I mean, that's saving someone's life. That's what that is.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane to think that they are able to get a responder to someone's side that fast, 8 to 15 minutes ahead of an ambulance. And that can be the difference between life and death. It's just crazy to think of.
And the other crazy thing to think of is how they do it. So,
Real quick, I wanted to mention, I said ROSC, and some people may not know what that is. I actually got a comment from somebody who listens to our show last week who said that we should go in more depth on what, you know, certain terms mean, because people who aren't in the field may not know what those terms mean. So I just wanted to explain what ROSC is real quick. ROSC is when you, basically when you regain a pulse. It's restoring the circulatory system. You've done CPR, you've given drugs, whatever it may be, defibrillated, and a rhythm has reappeared. Blood flow has begun to circulate throughout the body again. So that's what ROSC is. It's basically pulmonary functions are restored, or pulmonary and cardiac functions are restored.
So yeah, it means return of spontaneous circulation. ROSC. It's just an acronym.
and if there's anything public safety likes is acronyms, we're right next to the military on that. It's like learning a whole new language. And different public safety veins have different meanings for the same acronyms. But anyway, before I got off track here, so what's really cool how they do this, because like we learned in the last episode, I'm a very hands-on technology guy. The way they do this with their technology is fantastic. So in the United States, we have some kind of GPS for some of our emergency vehicles. If you're in a larger department, or a lot of private departments have them, that tells you where you are and where the emergency is. And then you have your BLS, Basic Lifesaver, and your ALS, Advanced Lifesaver vehicles and teams. The differences Joe and Jay can get into in a little bit, but we'll do that after I explain this because it's so fantastic. So
can I just explain real quick how they generally do that, the GPS stuff in the United States? It's basically you're not going to find it anywhere where we live, you know, in Iowa, but like out in California or Louisiana or New York or something like that, they stage. You know, you'll be driving down the road and you'll see an ambulance sitting at a gas station or a church or a school or whatever it may be. So they have staging locations throughout metropolitan areas, generally because they don't have stations, or it's not ran out of a station, it's ran out of a hospital. And, you know, the 40 ambulances that are going on shift that day, they all leave the hospital and they go stage at one location that they're specifically supposed to go stage at. And then that staging location's put into a computer program that their dispatch uses, whatever it may be. And, you know, they're looking at a screen with all these, we'll call it, say, red dots, and the red dots are ambulances. And then we'll say green dot is an EMS call, and they look for the closest red dot to the green dot. Basically how they do it in the United States.
And it's similar. The state of Iowa uses a system called MOC, and it goes over your EMS, your law enforcement, for the people and departments that use that system. So that's kind of what I was alluding to. Anyway, before we got off track again.
I'm sorry to interrupt again, but what Joe's talking about with them staging in certain areas, I believe that's called a dynamic deployment model for EMS. And it just means that like he said, that they don't necessarily have a home base, that it goes off of
it's based off of
call volume. It's based off of call volume. So if the northern part,
if you've got 25 calls at, XYZ neighborhood, well, they're gonna put 3 ambulances staged in that area, whereas, ABC neighborhood only has 10 calls. They're only going to put 1 ambulance over there.
Yeah, so that's a dynamic EMS model. So we'll quit interrupting you now, Corwin. Go ahead.
Well, in law enforcement and other public safety avenues use similar things. Generally, it's with heat mapping of call volumes, what types of calls are where. That way you can get the proper resources where you need to have them. However, for the third time, stop interrupting me.
But yeah, so no, I'm just joking anyway.
And then there was one host. Anyway, no. So their system, it does the geography, and as opposed to just having the split BLS and ALS training. So it does that as well as who has the best equipment. So if they have just an AED, an automatic electronic defibrillator, I think that's how that's the acronym for that.
Automatic external defibrillator.
Thank you. So it tells them who has what equipment and what might be best for this call, as well as, is that volunteer traveling by foot? Are they in their car? Are they in an ambulance? Or are they on the AmbuCycle? And they call it the Life Compass 2.0 system. It's been around since the mid-2000s, and it's just such a robust system. And basically, each volunteer is given essentially a phone, and it has these GPS and tools preloaded onto it so that they can get to those calls in that 3 minutes or that 90 seconds, but it does all of that automatically. So if there's an EMS call down the road, it will say this person is closest, but this person has this level of training, they have this equipment, and they are in an ambulance, so that person can get the proper care that they need. And to do that automatically is just, it's awe-inspiring, because we don't have anything in our area that I know of as robust. I know there are different systems that do different things. And currently, if you're dispatched out closest geographically, your dispatcher will say Medic 2. Medic 2 could be a BLS or an ALS, get sent out, but maybe they have mobile stroke unit. Well, they don't have that mobile stroke unit, and it's a stroke call. They don't have the best equipment for that. And they're also traveling by ambulance, and maybe they need to get there a little faster. But that's kind of where I'm diving into the technology portion, because the ability to do that automatically and with ease helps with that response time and has saved millions of lives. I could only imagine how many lives that's saved by itself. Being able to get the most direct route with the closest person, with the best training, best equipment, and the best mode of transportation. Honestly, that should be the standard, not just for EMS, but all public safety, because it is. It's just robust. And I'm just trying to imagine the other applications for this, and it's fantastic.
Right.
It is.
So, and to speak to that, how far behind the United States is on that, when me and Jake get tripped out on a call, or we get an EMS call from the fire department, the dispatch that tripped us out, they have no idea who they're going to get. They don't know if they're going to get just a firefighter to drive the ambulance, or if they're going to get an EMT, or if they're going to get a paramedic. They have no idea what they're going to get. Not until that person has arrived at the station. And then unless the dispatch personally knows who the person, the responder is, they don't know what level it is. Or unless the responder says, we're only a basic ambulance, this is the ALS call, can you start us another unit, or can you start us a helicopter? They don't know any of that. They don't know any of that. They don't know what level of service we're going to be able to provide at the time of the call going out until that responder has either told them, hey, we're not capable of taking this call, paid someone else out, or hey, we're en route, but we're only a basic unit, start us an ALS unit as well. So they don't know any of that. And by the time all that has happened, you're talking 10, 15 minutes into a call for us, because we're in a rural area. In a metropolitan area like Des Moines, they trip out Medic 3 or Medic 4 or Medic 12 or what. They're getting a paramedic no matter what, because that's Des Moines' requirement. Every firefighter in Des Moines is a paramedic as well. So they know they're going to get a paramedic. But in the rural area for us, there's no idea. There's no telling what you're going to get.
So a couple other unique features to this dispatching app that they use. So when a call comes in, they don't dispatch one responder. They dispatch the 5 closest responders. And here's what I think is just fucking crazy, and Joe just kind of talked about it, is those 5 closest responders are dispatched in 3 seconds of within that call being made. 3 fucking seconds. That is unfathomable to me. That is insane to even think of. 3 seconds. You count to 3 and there's somebody on their way to you. That's just so hard for me to believe. So it's just insane.
Well, and all that information's fed not just to the dispatcher for the organization, but the Israeli Defense Force, their police, and the Ministry of Health, so that all those people are already being notified what's going on. So there's no need to have, or there's no cross communication or lack of communication. It's all just done.
I think before we move on, I'm just going to note real quick, I think we got off track a little bit. All of this stuff that we talked about just now, these are all innovations of the Israeli medical EMS world that were either set in motion by Eli or put in place by him himself. And I think we kind of got off track from that.
Yeah, and so I kind of want to touch on, and it's just it's kind of fun. So when Eli first started United Hatzalah, Israel's EMS system is a for-profit system. So they don't have like city and county ambulances. I'm sure maybe they do anyway, most of their system is for-profit ambulances. So when Eli first started his system, those for-profit ambulances didn't want him responding because that takes revenue away from them. So before this app and all that, he didn't have dispatch. So in the early days, he would pay off the dispatchers. I'm sorry, he bought scanners so he could hear the calls and he could go with them. And he would pay off the dispatchers to slow down and talk more clearly so he could hear where it is that they're going. And that just is amazing to me, the commitment he had to just pay these people off so he could just be able to hear where the call was so he could go help these people.
In reading and watching some of his other interviews, and we say it sometimes even in our state, in our area, he stated that if he was ever choking, he'd call for a pizza. Because, joke is your pizza will get there before first responders. And that can be the case anywhere. But he sought out to make it his mission to change that. And it's innovations like his that help move EMS and public safety in general forward. Because unfortunately, innovations in our space are few and far between. And generally it comes at the cost of lives. Innovations are never preemptive. It's always after the fact. And that's unfortunate. But people like Mr. Beer keep trudging through creating these innovative ideas and fundraising these to make them easily accessible for not just Israel. He's grown this to be a worldwide response to the point that there were volunteers heading over to Ukraine when the Russo-Ukrainian war started. You had volunteers ready and at the border, within hours or days, ready to help in staging Kiev, Odessa, the hot spots where civilians and others alike would need medical attention. And what's fascinating about Mr. Beer's organization is it's multifaceted in that it's not just Orthodox Jewish people that are volunteers. What's interesting about them is that it's multifaceted in their makeup of volunteers. So you have, of course, you have your secular Jewish people, Arab cultures, Druze, I think that's how it is. And then, of course, you have your general Christians. They're all working together. And the only criteria to be a volunteer, you just have to be able to and be willing to save anyone's life anywhere. It's especially important due to the cultural differences in the area and just the conflicts that go on in the area, because some of their equipment, Joe can certainly talk about this a little bit because it's starting to integrate into the U.S. EMS service a little bit. Joe, do you want to go ahead and touch on that?
Their equipment?
Yeah, specifically
so like
personal equipment.
Their vest and things like that they have started to wear.
Okay, yeah. So they, in the United States, in places like, specifically, I know like in Louisiana, Texas, I've seen it. I can't remember the name of it. Big EMS service in Texas. I can't remember the name of it. Austin Travis County EMS. They've implemented body armor and stuff for their EMS providers. And you see it, like I said, you see it everywhere: Texas, New York, California, Louisiana. You don't really see
we
it.
See it here in Iowa. We do though.
Fort Dodge.
Well, even in Des Moines, anytime that they go to a call that is deemed
high risk.
High risk. I was going to say unsafe, but they won't.
Right. They might have
they
it
wear
available.
ballistics vest.
They might have it available, but they don't wear it their entire shift.
No.
These people and these responders in Israel, that it's their norm. They wear a vest and a freaking bulletproof helmet all day long. Because it can happen at any moment for them, and they may not be aware of it. Whereas in the United States, it's, stage a block away at the church until police have the scene secure because, it's a domestic violence with a weapon involved, or it's a shooting and the suspect is whereabouts are unknown. So it could be whatever. Whereas in Israel, it's all the time. They wear it all the time because it could happen at any time and they get no forewarning.
Yeah, so the kind of the last thing that I want to talk about that Eli has done is we talk about that they provide EMS services, but they also provide they have a part of their organization called the Psychotrauma Unit, which consists of trained volunteers that provide emotional stabilization support at traumatic scenes like terror attacks, mass casualty incidents, rocket attacks, things like that. And these are people that just go out and help with that healing process of those attacks, I guess. Helping people with therapy with that have experienced PTSD through that. Or other psychological disorders that have come from those kind of incidents. He started that in 2016, and I think it's just another thing that's unique to them and unique to Israel and what they're doing there.
And again, this is another huge area that anybody who lives in the United States or who's done any sort of public safety work knows that the United States lacks in severely. They used to do what was called critical stress debriefings. They don't do those anymore, as far as I know, or maybe they do, but they don't do them like they used to. They're certainly not on-scene providers to assist in those sort of services at the scene of an incident. Yeah, it's just it's a never ending it's a never ending downhill battle in the United States. Those services essentially don't exist like they do in Israel.
Yeah, and like they go as far as offering, like, they have canine units, and our idea of a canine unit is police. Well, theirs is they take therapy dogs to these mass casualty events, or whatever, just to take people back to a level of normal. And they don't just stop with putting a Band-Aid on a wound. They really take care of someone in every aspect, whether that be physical health, mental health, or whatever. And again, it's just another thing that is very unique to them, and it is amazing to see them do. And not only just the United States, but other countries should really look into the things that they are doing over there.
And Jake and I were talking a little bit before the show. The closest thing that we've seen that's like this is a program called Mental Health First Aid in the United States. I think it's also in Canada, but it's not near as robust, but it is a good step forward because, Joe and Jake both know that trauma isn't just physical, it's mental too. And we have to be able to take care of body and mind.
Most definitely. And it's great that they're out here doing this because, if that mental health aspect of that event goes untreated, it can be just as deadly as the event itself.
We're all guilty of it. I've been on traumas within the hospital where a young child died, and I seen the EMS crew sitting in the ambulance garage on the bumper of their truck, bawling their eyes out, and nobody went over there. Nobody went and said anything to them. Nobody went and offered them anything whatsoever. But those are the guys that showed up first on the scene and did everything they could to save a child's life. And at the end of the call, when it didn't turn out as everybody would, the way that everybody wanted, it still affected them, and nobody offered them anything. And that's the type of stuff that fucks people up. That's why the suicide rate among first responders is so high. That's why PTSD is a real existence in the first responder world, but yet it's not recognized by workman's comp and shit like that, because nobody offers them anything when stuff like that happens.
And I should point out that yes, they do provide those services to their responders, but they go out into the community and help those people that were affected by those events as well. And that's it's crazy that they have such a massive amount of people that are willing to go out and help during these life altering events, these mass attacks, or whatever it is. And they respond just like an ambulance would. They're just providing a different kind of emergency service. Instead of physical, it's mental.
The other part that's really important and amazes me is the entire organization, both the physical aspect and the mental aspect, is entirely funded by private donations. Like Jake said earlier, they don't charge for their services, but they reach out and they are donated to privately. And even individuals like you, me, Jake, you listeners can go to their website and you can donate, small sums, or if you have a little extra money, you can donate equipment directly to their organization. And that's what's fascinating to me, because it takes a lot just coming into this sphere the way I have, outside of, I had to take a college course on law enforcement management and budgeting of a police department. Budgeting an EMS service or a hospital service is immense. And I think their budget around 2018 was about $20 million. And all of that was through private donations. And that's amazing.
The last thing that I want to talk about that Ellie has done and developed a team for is they have a team of individuals that assist the Holocaust survivors. And these folks, so as of today, there's about 200,000 Holocaust survivors still in Israel. And about 48,000 of them live below the poverty line. And they have to make the choice between food and medication and other necessities. These volunteers go out. They help these Holocaust survivors by just monitoring their health, doing preventative care for them, making sure that they are taken care of via like food, making sure they're getting to their healthcare appointments. His organization really covers every aspect of not only just emergency care, but preventative care, and just taking care of the people that need to be taken care of and should be taken care of. These people survived the Holocaust. They shouldn't have to worry about whether they're going to be able to afford dinner and their medication. And again, it's just truly amazing to see this organization do this and do the work that they are doing. And like I said many times in this show, other countries should really look at this and take from it and model something like it to help people and our communities and things like that. And, the thing we always hear is funding. And when it comes to this, it's kind of something I don't want to hear because funding's just an excuse. This is all done voluntarily. So, you don't hear them complaining about funding. You just see them doing what they can with what they got.
And Beer has done a tremendous amount of work, and he's not done. His goal eventually is to get the response time to less than 90 seconds. And his plea isn't for more money. His plea is he needs more volunteers, and he wants to build more technology to do this. So like Jake said, funding, that's a portion of it, but we need volunteers. We need people that's willing to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's that's gonna kind of wrap up we'll call it a short summary, even though this is about an hour episode, because we could probably talk about Eli Beer all day long. He's done a lot of truly amazing things with very limited resources. And that's another thing that just surprises me is this man came from nothing and has done so much with nothing. He didn't care if he had a Band-Aid, he was going to a trauma scene and he would do what he could. It's truly great.
It's funny you say that, Jake. I mean, it's not funny, but in reading one of the interviews, he had talked about using his yarmulke to stop bleeding.
I did read that one, and it just use what you got.
And I want to thank Jake for pointing Mr. Beer out, because I hadn't heard about him or his organization, and just going through this show and learning what I could through the articles and through the research we were able to do, I've come out of this with more information and more appreciation.
Yeah, so I highly encourage you guys, like I said, we could talk about him all day. I highly encourage you guys to go do some research and see what he's done and see how he's not only changed Israel, but changed the world too. His organization reaches beyond Israel, like Corwin said earlier. They are nationwide now. So today's training tip for you guys is go check out American CME. We will leave their website or their link down in the show notes. You can go there and get free CEs for your EMS certification. So your paramedic or EMT, whatever, if you need CEs, it is completely free. They are a great website and they have some great trainings. Training is always great. Little knowledge always helps everybody. For gear this show, check out the 511 Tactical Operator belt. It's a great belt. I have wore that belt for 9 years, something like that. And I've wore the same one that entire duration, and it still looks brand new. The buckle is made of, I don't remember, but it can be it can be used as a rescue device, and it can hold up to 6,000 pounds. So it's a very multi-purpose belt. So go check that out. I highly recommend it. Corwin, Joe, you guys got anything?
My final takeaway or giveaway is, if you want to check out more about Eli Beer and his organization, head over to his website. Eli Beer, sorry. And his organization. Check out israelrescue.org. That has a lot of information. And if you want to support him and his mission, that's where you can do it. And that's kind of my takeaway. And if you aren't in EMS or in public safety yet, but you are wanting to, an EMTB course in the United States costs $2,500, and you're able to do a lot of good. So something to consider. And as always,
yeah, if you can help out, please do so. If you have the passion to help people, go get training. Go join a volunteer organization, full-time organization, whatever. If you have the passion to help somebody, go do it. It is the most rewarding thing you will ever do in your life. I guarantee it. So with that, we'll wrap up the show. You guys stay safe out there.
And that's a wrap for another episode of Beyond the Barrier. We hope you enjoyed diving deep into the world of public safety, fire, law enforcement, EMS, and security with us. Your trusty hosts, Jake, Joe, and Corwin. If you liked what you heard, make sure to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to follow us on social media for even more exclusive content and behind-the-scenes look at our guests and topics. But for now, it's time to put down the walkie-talkies and hang up the handcuffs. We'll catch you next time on Beyond the Barrier, where we'll continue to break down barriers and explore the exciting world of first responders and security professionals. Stay safe out there.